Hello and welcome. Today we explore how raw barley is transformed into whiskey and why each precise stage from grain handling to maturation determines the character of the final spirit. This journey begins with harvested barley entering an industrial system designed for control and consistency. Through malting, milling, mashing, fermentation, distillation, and aging, natural biology and mechanical engineering work together in sequence. Step by step, we follow the physical transformation of grain into spirit, revealing how structure, temperature, time, and material flow shape one of the world's most enduring distilled products. The transformation begins with terrain control. Bulldozers reshape unstable sand, defining structured cultivation zones. Imported dark topsoil is delivered, layered, and mechanically integrated into the sandy substrate. Soil amendments are blended to enhance structure, moisture retention, and nutrient capacity. Engineers test composition and compaction to ensure long-term stability. Only once the foundation is chemically and physically balanced does the site transition from raw desert to engineered farmland. With soil prepared, water becomes the critical variable. Deep drilling operations penetrate arid ground until underground reserves are reached. Pumps are installed and connected to solar energy arrays, establishing an independent power source in remote conditions. Storage tanks fill, pressure systems stabilize, and irrigation pipelines extend across the cultivated grid. What was once dry terrain is now integrated into a controlled hydraulic network designed for sustainable production. Cultivation begins under protection. Selected barley seeds are examined for viability before being placed into precisely mixed growing media inside a greenhouse. Soil ratios are adjusted for aeration and nutrient balance. Trays are planted, covered, and introduced to calibrated watering cycles. Environmental controls regulate humidity, temperature, and light intensity. As seedlings emerge, monitoring ensures uniform growth, preparing each plant for structural resilience before field exposure. When seedlings reach sufficient root strength, they are transported to the prepared desert plants. Planting areas are aligned with drip irrigation rows to ensure direct root hydration. Each seedling is positioned, secured, mulched, and integrated into the irrigation network. Rows gradually expand across the engineered soil, converting infrastructure into a living agricultural system. The orchard now operates as a controlled biological extension of the initial land reclamation phase. As the orchard matures, management becomes continuous and data-driven. Irrigation flow rates are adjusted according to plant development stages. Blossoms emerge and pollination begins. Early fruit forms and undergoes thinning to optimize yield quality. Farmers and scientists inspect foliage for stress indicators, manage pests through manual and drone-assisted treatments, and apply fertilizers as required. Netting protects developing fruit, while pruning and soil maintenance sustain long-term productivity. Growth progresses from flowering to full ripeness under systematic supervision. At maturity, harvesting initiates the transition from cultivation to distribution. Ripe barley fruits are manually collected to prevent structural damage. Field-level sorting removes visibly compromised units before crate stocking. Initial sugar level checks and visual inspections confirm readiness. Harvested produce is organized and loaded under coordinated supervision, preserving quality as it leaves the orchard environment. Transport vehicles carry the harvested barley from desert fields to the processing facility. Upon arrival, crates enter a structured intake system. Forklifts transfer loads into the internal workflow. Conveyor lines begin mechanical sorting, removing substandard fruit. Washing systems eliminate surface contaminants before final inspection. The agricultural product is now fully integrated into an industrial process flow. Cleaned and approved barley moves through packaging lines where units are organized, labeled, and palletized. Finished goods are stored under controlled warehouse conditions before shipment. Trucks depart the facility, extending the production chain beyond the desert landscape. The transformation is complete. Engineered soil produced living crops. Controlled cultivation produced harvest, and structured processing delivered a market-ready product. The process begins as harvested barley arrives at the facility and is unloaded into the grain handling system. From the unloading platform, the raw grain moves along conveyors and through vibrating sieves that remove dust and smaller impurities. Samples are taken into the laboratory where technicians inspect, measure, and manually select grains to verify quality standards. Once approved, the barley is directed into large silos, establishing a controlled starting point for the transformation from agricultural raw material to industrial ingredient. Stored barley is transferred from the silo and introduced to water inside large vats, where controlled soaking initiates the biological phase of the process. As moisture penetrates each grain, water is carefully drained and transferred between vessels to regulate hydration. The hydrated barley is then spread across the malting floor, where it is manually and mechanically turned to ensure uniform airflow and temperature. Over time, germination begins, activating natural enzymes within the grain. Workers monitor internal heat and inspect sprout development, confirming that the barley has reached the precise stage required for further processing. Once germination is complete, the green malt is transferred to kilns where heat is applied to halt biological growth while preserving enzymatic potential. Furnaces are fueled and temperature is carefully monitored as warm air circulates through the perforated floors. Smoke and steam rise as moisture is gradually reduced. Mechanical systems turn and level the drying malt to ensure even exposure. When the desired dryness is achieved, rootlets are removed and the finished malt is cleaned and prepared for the next mechanical stage. dried malt is conveyed into milling equipment where rollers crush the grain into coarse grist. The objective is controlled fragmentation, breaking open the husk while maintaining structural integrity for efficient extraction. The milled material falls into hoppers, is weighed to precise measurements, and passes through sifting systems to confirm particle consistency. Once verified, the grist is transported toward the mash tun, transitioning from dry preparation to liquid extraction. Inside large mash tuns, measured grist is combined with heated water. Rotating paddles agitate the mixture, allowing enzymes developed during malting to convert starches into fermentable sugars. Additional water is introduced in stages to maximize extraction. As the mash settles, the liquid wort is separated from spent grain and transferred through pipes into holding vessels. Cooling systems regulate temperature before fermentation begins, while automated mechanisms remove residual solids from the mash tun. Cooled wort is directed into washbacks where yeast is introduced to initiate fermentation. Within wooden or stainless steel vessels, the liquid begins to foam and bubble as sugars convert into alcohol. Agitation systems maintain uniform activity while temperature is monitored for stability. Over time, the sweet wort becomes a fermented wash, completing the biochemical transformation necessary for distillation. The fermented wash is heated inside copper or stainless steel stills. As temperature rises, alcohol vapors separate and travel upward through columns and pipes before condensing back into liquid spirit. Distillery workers monitor gauges and inspect the flow through spirit safes, adjusting valves to control quality and separation. The clear distillate is collected in receivers, marking the transition from fermented liquid to refined spirit. Freshly distilled spirit is transferred through pipe systems into tanks before being directed into wooden barrels. Workers measure density and verify specifications before sealing each cask. Barrels are labeled, transported, and positioned within storage facilities. This stage concludes the octave production cycle and begins a slower transformation driven by time and wood interaction. Sealed barrels rest in warehouses where temperature, airflow, and structure influence long-term development. Over months and years, spirit interacts with charred oak, gradually absorbing color and character. Minor evaporation occurs, leaving visible traces within the warehouse environment. Rows of barrels remain undisturbed as maturation progresses, completing the journey from raw barley to aging whiskey, awaiting future bottling and blending. From the arrival of barley to the silent aging of sealed barrels, we have followed the complete industrial journey of whiskey. Each stage, preparation, extraction, fermentation, distillation, and maturation, builds directly upon the one before it, demonstrating how controlled processes turn agricultural grain into refined spirit. This is how barley becomes whiskey, and why precision at every step defines the final result. Thank you for watching this industrial transformation. Follow and subscribe for more complete production journeys from raw material to finished product.